morning, everyone. Welcome back to the second day of the retreat. And I hope you're feeling rested and that after we finished yesterday, you had some peace and you felt good. Some of you might have been challenged by other people and you may have passed the test or you may not. But I'm sure you'll have done your best, and hopefully, you have got lots of insights and tools to help you already. So there's still quite a few more to join us. So I thought we'd just set the scene now by relaxing. So if you'd like to start doing some slow, deep, gentle breathing, please. And whilst you're doing that, and your legs are uncrossed, your feet are on the ground, and you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, we're going to show you a little video called Love, Peace and Wisdom, because goodbye to anger means connecting with our love, with our peace and our wisdom. So Suja is going to be there in the background as before. Here we go, and she's going to show us. We'll put this on for us. Morning, Suja. You're there. Say hello to us all. Oh.
The night watcher fly free, cross the still of the dawn. And if peace were a mountain, we'd gather around her to bathe in her silence, her power, her call. If wisdom could sing or whisper his secrets, eternally teaching the ways of the free. In my mind I can see them, I hear them, and I feel them. For love, peace, and wisdom are all part of me. If love has her freedom and peace her expression, surely wisdom will grow like a flower in bloom. by the prayers of the hopeful and the tears of the brave. We long to return to that place of still waters and sit on the banks under some shady tree. In my mind, I can see it, I hear it, and I feel it. And love, peace, and wisdom are all that we need. Some call me a dreamer, some will call me a seeker, one who follows the stars on a quest for the truth. But every believer holds a deep hidden memory of a time when the earth was a flower in bloom. We long to return to that place of still waters and sit on the banks under some shady tree. In my mind, I can see it, I hear it, and I believe it. And love, peace, and wisdom are the three golden keys.
Yes, lovely that, isn't it? And it's called Love, Peace and Wisdom, and it's by a band called Bliss. And they've produced a number of really good albums, all connected with the Brahma Kumari's knowledge. So giving, a lyrical interpretation of the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris. So all their albums are really good. There must be about half a dozen of them now, I think. And we will be playing, one or two tracks later on. So welcome back. Yes, we're up to 73 now, and I'm sure there'll be more coming. So I'll just give you the outline for the day, and also a reminder to make sure that you stay muted and you have pen and paper to hand, ready for writing down any questions I might ask you, because we're going to be doing a few reflective experiments where you'll need to write things down. So make sure you've got your pen and paper to hand. This morning's session goes on till 12:30. We'll have a 10-minute break at some stage. I'm not sure exactly when. It depends on what we're doing. And then we'll come back this afternoon from 2 till 4 for the final session. And basically, we're going through the 4 steps to say goodbye to anger, frustration, and irritation. So I'm going to give you a little quiz to do. So if you could just see if you know the answers to all these questions. They're all based on what we've done already. And I don't want everybody to sort of dive into the chat box. As soon as if someone has an answer, you think you know the answer, just type it in, and then everyone else will see that answer. And it's just to see if you can remember some things. So the first question is, why can we get rid of our anger rather than just manage it? That's the first question. So if someone would like to type in, anyone apart from Neil, because Neil knows a lot about things. So there's a reason why anger doesn't really belong to us. We can get rid of it because we are all by nature. It's not our original nature, that is correct. So what is our original nature? Our original nature is one of great. Mona's got it, peace. That's it. So, and we sum that up in 2 words. What are the 2 words that Brahma Kumaris used for peace? Om Shanti. Great, thank you very much. Second question then is, what is special about reflective learning? What approach is it? It's a sort of ... approach to dealing with things. Reflective learning is a ... inside out approach. Very good, thank you. That's that question. And what are the 2 things that we need to control if we're to get rid of our anger? Yeah, our thoughts, yeah, which is connected, there we go, our body and mind. Yeah, you're all very quick off the mark here. Great, thank you very much. And when there is a trigger to our anger, there are 4 reactions. Can you remember what the 4 reactions are? We react on 4 levels. Correct behavior is the first one. Emotions is 1, yes. There's the physical effects. Yeah, you're all on the ball. You're very bright. Yes. So the first one is the behavior. That's the first thing that we see. Go down beneath a little bit, and then there are the physical effects, because of the stress reaction that's coming from the mind and our feelings. So we've got the physical, we've got the behavioral, the physical, the emotional, and the mental. So those are the 4 reactions. Of those 4 reactions, which is the most important? Every time we get triggered, correct, everyone's got that, it's your thoughts. It's the way you think about the trigger that leads to all the other reactions. Great. You're so quick here. And if you were to summarize the 2 choices that we have, we can either go the ... way or the ... way. There are 2 ways of going. Right, negative or positive. I used a little, there we go. Yes, the glad way and the sad way, correct. That's it. So what does the sad way stand for? SAD stands for stress, angry, and depressed. Megna is really on the ball, yes. And Star Donovan as well, great, thank you, and Susie. Okay, and what does the GLAD way stand for? The GLAD. That's causing a little, oh, right, almost. Yes, we've got it there. They're coming in thick and fast. Megna, again, are you looking at your notes? Or you're doing this from memory? Yeah, giving, loving, accepting, and being detached. Yeah, Lisa Marie, very good. Yes, great. So you're all on board there. So if we can give rather than take, if we can love rather than go into fear and hate and things like that, if we can accept the situation, the trigger, whatever it may be, and if we can be detached. So detached means being able to take a step back. So reflective learning, for example, is a form of detachment because we're stepping back, and there are 5 steps to reflective learning. Can anybody remember what the 5 steps are? You start off with 1 and you work your way down. There's 5 steps to reflective learning. Let's see if someone can come up with the answers. The observe is the first step, yes. Second step is to reflect. There we go. Look, we've got it there. Lisa Marie, yeah, thank you very much. We observe, first of all, our behavior under those different headings, those different sorts of reactions. We're observing how we're dealing with things. We're reflecting on it and then saying, is this really the best way of handling this? Is there not another way? And then through that, we learn that we could deal with things differently. And then we need to put into practice the learnings that we've done. And through that, we will then change our behavior, change the way we deal with things. So the next question is, how long do you need to practice a new habit for? A minimum of how many days or occasions? Oh, wow, we look at that. Everyone's flooding in with 21 there. Very good. Excellent. I must say you're very good students. You're very good. And 90, yes, that's some people do say 3 months or 90 days, but 21 I usually stick to because it's a bit shorter and it's more encouraging than 90. Okay. Anger is divided into 2 types. What are the 2 types of anger? Passive, correct, and aggressive. Susie is on the ball again. Yes, very good. We've got aggressive and we've got passive. All right then. And if you tend to, or always more on the aggressive side, and you're shouting and swearing, doing this, what illnesses could you get? Which organ in your body could be affected? Your heart, correct, that's right. Because you've got all that thickened blood going through those narrower veins and arteries. It's going to put a lot of pressure on your heart. So you could get heart disease, heart attack, and things like that. Yeah, very good. And now, yeah, people are coming up. If you're more on the passive side and you bottle it all up and keep it all inside, then you could get cancer. Yes, that's right. Because as somebody's already said there, acid feeds cancer cells. So you've already, you create acid and tension in your body, and the cancer then can thrive in the cancer cells. Right. Okay, good. Thank you. And then that moves us on a little bit to what are the 4 white poisons that cause a lot of acid in the body? 4 white poisons. Yes, white sugar, white flour, white rice. Yes, and the salt. Correct. Yes, all processed foods, basically. So we mentioned that in passing yesterday. It wasn't in any of the notes or on the handout, but it shows a lot of you were listening. You didn't fall asleep, so very good. Right, and why should we avoid eating meat? Because of the toxins, yes, and the vibrations, correct, yes. And Monique has put it quite nicely there. We absorb the negative energy from the animal which has been killed in a state of fear and tension. Yes, that's right. That's why quite often meat is tough, because the animal has been killed and it's really, when you're really tense and anxious, all your muscles tense up. That's what happens to the flesh of the animal. And then there's all the fearful vibrations. Yes. And then we're actually eating that low level, heavy energy which is contained in the body of the animal. Very good. Right, well, I think, oh yes, and one final question then. Another name for non-violent communication. Assertiveness. Yeah, Megna, I'll have to look for your picture in a minute, because you seem to be really on the ball. I bet you're a trainer or something. You seem to have all the answers there. And then Tammy there, I'm happy I'm a vegetarian for almost 30 years. Very good. Magna is laughing at me. Susan from Peace Village, yeah, compassionate communication, yeah. So this is a way of trying to just help us to remember, because a lot could have happened after 4 o'clock yesterday and this morning. So I'm just trying, that was a way of trying to summarize in a way what we've all been doing, and talk softly, sweetly and slowly. Are you asking me to do that, Josh? It'll take a lot longer if I do. Oh, I went for a walk and told my husband everything. Right, okay. So what we're going to do now, to give you a chance, having stirred up your memories of yesterday and what we've learned, you're going to go into breakout rooms for 15 minutes so that you can talk about what you've personally learned, how you think it's helped you so far, because each of you will have taken on different things. Like someone there, it resonated with me. A lot of stuff resonated with me yesterday. So think about, just for a moment, just think about what did I learn that will help me. Maybe lots of general information like the 4 white poisons and things, but what's the main thing that has stood out for you so far in relation to yourself? That, there's a particular thing. This is really going to help me if I do ... whatever that might be. Okay. So hopefully you've got a second or two to think about that. And Suja is going to now put you all in breakout rooms for 15 minutes so you can listen to each other and share. Make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak in your group, please. Okay, Suja?
Yes, they're
Right.
open now.
Good, thank you. So welcome back. And yeah, that sharing is so important. Just realizing you're not alone, realizing there are other ways of looking at things. So just to remind you then what we've done, sharing is caring. Yeah, so well, you'll have other opportunities to share as well. So just a brief resume of yesterday. We've all done it in the form of a quiz, but I'll put it into words as well. So we're going on a journey to say goodbye to anger, not just manage it. And it's a 4-step journey. And yesterday, We did step one, which was open your eyes. So basically, once we're aware of anger, its consequences, and its effects on us and other people, then we're going to have a very powerful incentive to change our angry ways and become peaceful. And the foundation for us all really is the understanding that we are by nature spiritual beings who are peace loving. So anything we do which goes against our peace is going to damage us and hurt us mentally, physically, and emotionally. So having understood that, we then need to find tools and techniques to help us to change and return to our state of peace. And that then requires us to go on this inner journey. And so step two of the journey is to change your mind. So in other words, be aware of what's going on in your mind, understand that every thought that you have has an impact. It has an impact on your body, on your feelings, and your thoughts are really the seed of all that you create. So all of you, wherever you are, uh, the room that you're living in, if you know, if it's a beautiful room, you've created it. It was just a box, it was just a square or whatever shape it is. And you have, through your thoughts, have created, hopefully, a lovely, peaceful, beautiful environment, which is really a reflection of you, your inner self, unless you've been completely taken over by the media and the advertising world and you're just regurgitating things that you've seen on the telly. Even if you have done that, you've decided which things you like. So you have created it yourself, even if you have been influenced in your creation. So, and it's very important then to distinguish between the different types of thoughts. And we could have gone on with the quiz. We've got those 5 types of thoughts, the elevated thoughts, you know, which make you feel good, which uplift you and inspire you. And then we've got the negative thoughts, which bring you down, involving judgment, criticism, blame, and judging and comparing and all the isms. And then we've got the necessary thoughts. You know, you need to remember to go to the shops to get some food, otherwise you could starve to death. And then we've got the wasteful thoughts, and wasteful thoughts really are all those questions: how, what, why, when, you know, which go round and round in the mind, or all those daydreams which really are an escape from dealing with things. So that's all very, it's a waste of energy, a waste of mental energy, and also a waste of physical energy, and also a waste of time. So we can actually waste a lot of our life without really intending to. And then we've got the positive thoughts, and those are going to make us feel good, and they're going to help us to um, have better relationships and create a better world. And so rather than focusing on the negative, we need to switch to focusing on the positive. So the way to do that is to check our thoughts, and if they're not going in the right direction, change them. Steer them away from the negative into the positive. Focus on the benefits of everything. Focus on gratitude, being grateful for what you've got rather than complaining about what you haven't got. Appreciating yourself, appreciating other people, and making the best of everything in your life, because then that's going to help you to stay in a peaceful, calm way of being. And then everything is going to be much easier if you do that. So we went through all of that, and then we looked at the importance of looking after yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. And then we did a bit about the nonviolent communication or assertiveness. So before we move on to step 3, which is healing the heart, and is actually probably the most important of the 4 steps in some ways, and then that will take us to lunchtime. Then after lunch, we're going to be looking at the spiritual aspects connected with anger, awakening our spirit. But before we move on, if you have any questions, now's the time to put them in the chat box and I'll answer them. So Sue has put one here. What is the difference between negative and wasteful thoughts? Well, a negative thought will bring you down. So say the judgment and the criticism and things like that. A wasteful thought won't necessarily be negative, but you could be a negative thought, but it's where you're spending a lot of time thinking about the same thing, having repetitive thoughts like, I wish I had a nicer house. I mean, that is negative in one sense because you're implying that your house isn't very nice, or I wish I had a bigger house. Or imagining winning the lottery. So you can spend all day thinking, oh, if I win the lottery tonight, I'm going to buy everybody a house and I'm going to do all sorts of things. It's not necessarily negative, but it's not actually very productive. Does that make sense? And it's a waste of our time. By all means, have a daydream for a little while, but don't spend all day doing it. Right, now here we go. We've got some insights from other people here. Lisa Marie, I would say negative thoughts eat you up, and wasteful thoughts the space for positive thoughts and time. Waste the space, yeah, for positive thoughts and time. Is not being able to forgive is part of anger. Yes, definitely. We'll be looking at the importance of forgiveness in a minute. Will you give handouts from yesterday and today? And the answer is yes. You'll get a copy of the PowerPoint and an overall summary of all the different things which we have been looking at. And then Neil there again, wasteful thoughts tend to repeat themselves over and over. All right, thank you, Neil. I think he's there as my guardian angel, coming in when necessary to clarify things. Right, yes, okay. Now, when will the recording be shared? Sometime after the event. How do we get rid of the penguin up resentment or negativity over side of us? Well, that's what we're going to be doing next. We're going to be looking at everything that's inside. Post-traumatic stress disorder, triggers, can cause angry outbursts. Yeah, we're going to cover that in the next session. And the Peace Villagers, yeah, already put some stuff out there. Pent-up feelings. Right, okay. So I don't think there's anything particular more coming up. So we've done those first 2 steps. So we're moving on now then. So if you have that, all right, I promise I'll remain peaceful. My affirmation for the next 21 days. Very good. I will remain peaceful. I like it. Okay, so we're going to move on now then to the screen sharing of the PowerPoint. So I'll disappear probably for a second whilst I do this. And oh, sorry, no, here it is. Where are we? Right, good. So that, whoops. We don't want that, we want the next one. Right, here we go. So this is going to be very important. So healing our heart, or going into the depths of the volcano, really is about understanding the parts played by the intellect and the conscious mind and the subconscious mind in the anger process, and the importance of using I can't read my own, I'm blocked here by all the photos. You can probably see it better than I can then. To change negative feelings and cycles of behavior, to get rid of those, yeah, so you can live in the present more. Practical tools for letting go past hurts. Okay, yes. So basically, all of us, you could say, we're walking wounded people. We've spent our lives accumulating all sorts of negative experiences as well as positive ones. And everything that we've ever seen, heard, or done is recorded and remembered in our subconscious. And I could just say one word to you, and everything connected with that word would then come up into your conscious mind. So I could say something like, what roses, and suddenly you'll start thinking about roses, and all your experiences and memories of roses will sort of come up hopefully into a nice feeling of, oh, I do love roses. But I could say something else to you like stupid, and suddenly all your angry feelings about being called stupid could come up. And then you'd end up reliving those feelings and getting really annoyed with me for calling you stupid and reminding you of all the things that have happened in the past when you've been called stupid. So a lot of us have got a lot of stuff inside us. And the time when we're most vulnerable and when actually most of these incidents happen, which really sink deep into our subconscious, are connected with our childhood. And there's a study now called ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences. It's worth looking this up actually. And there are 10 forms of adverse experience which you can have as a child, which will have a profound effect on you for the rest of your life. So this could include physical abuse or neglect, emotional abuse or neglect, mental abuse or neglect. It could include living in a violent home. It could include a home where one of the parents is in prison or in long-term stay somewhere, maybe in a hospital or whatever. It could include a household where there's alcohol or drug abuse. So there's 10 sorts of conditions which you could be subjected to as a child, and it's worth getting the questionnaire, which you can fill in online. And for example, if you've had 4 or more adverse childhood experiences, you're much more likely to get diabetes later on in life. You're much more likely to get COPD, the chest condition. You're much more likely to get depressed. If you have 6 or more of those adverse experiences, you're much more likely to attempt suicide later on in life. So these things are inside us, and they have a profound effect on different levels, actually. So lots will be to do with your primary needs, which may not have been satisfied. So this is a list here of primary needs, something that's required for our survival. So, for example, we need to feel valued. We need to feel safe. We need to feel significant or important to somebody. We need to feel cared for, seen, heard, accepted, appreciated, acknowledged. We need to feel respected, encouraged. We need to feel useful. We need to feel we belong. We need to be treated honestly and fairly. We need to feel trusted, loved, and held. So these are the things which we needed to have experienced, especially as a child. And if those needs weren't met, so if we felt the opposite of those things, if we felt we weren't accepted or appreciated, we weren't listened to, we didn't feel safe, we weren't respected, then obviously, if anything happens in our present life that reminds us of the fact that we weren't respected or loved, we're going to react because all those are going to get triggered and we'll explode even though we don't want to. And we may not even have been thinking about any of these things. And then somebody says, "Hi, stupid." And before you know it, all the memories connected with being put down by teachers or parents or other significant adults, they all come up in a very powerful way into almost one point. And before you know it, you're overreacting. Uh, are so powerful, they will overrule all the positive thinking that you're trying to do, because they're so strong. So this list comes from a book which I found very helpful by someone called Mike Fisher, Beating Anger. And then he says, whenever we feel angry or hurt or afraid, we can be sure that primary need is not being met, either by ourselves or others. And really, that's the primary need. It goes back to the past when those primary needs weren't met. So this is a very important diagram. This comes from the Raj Yoga meditation course, where we talk about mind, intellect, and sanskars. Sanskars, or the subconscious, really, in a way. So we have the three aspects here of the mind. The subconscious contains all our memories, our personality traits, our instincts and impressions. Everything that's ever happened to us is in here. Somebody says something like, calls you stupid, it brings that thought and the memories connected with it into your conscious mind. So, you start thinking all these things and feeling very badly, and your emotions are very strong. Before you know it, you're likely to express the feelings you've just brought up. And then if we express those feelings in a negative way through our words and actions, it's going to reinforce all those negative memories from the past. So I'll give you an example from my own life. I've always been very tall, so you can't see that now, but I mean, I'm 6'6" tall. I've always been taller than anyone else in my class at school, etc. The tallest in the school for quite a long time. I was on the quiet side because tall people quite often are more gentle or timid than others. They want to hide away because they feel so self-conscious of their height. And quite often, people like myself would become the subject or the object of bullies, who would usually be the opposite in size. They'd be smaller and tougher and more aggressive. And quite often I used to get called beanpole. So a beanpole, for those who don't know, is a bamboo cane or another pole that can be used for runner beans to grow up. So it's quite tall. And quite often someone would come up to me and say, "Hello, beanpole." And they'd whack me on the back and stick their leg out in front of me, or their foot, so I would trip over and fall on the ground, in the playground, as we used to call it. And then, of course, I'd end up with scratches on my knees, and my hands were sore and things like that from falling to the ground, and everybody would laugh and think it was really funny, and I would feel totally humiliated. So that went on for a long time, actually, to the extent that later on in life, if I saw a group of children or teenagers on the street, even in my 30s and 40s, I'd walk on the other side of the street in fear of being tripped over. It would just remind me of all the times that I've been hurt. So someone in the present, if I hadn't sorted it out, which I have now, someone in the present came up to say, hello, Beanpole, thinking they're being very original and funny. And if I reacted and hit them in the face, they'd be saying, what's going on? I only called them a Beanpole, I was just joking. They wouldn't know all about my past. They wouldn't know about the hurt I've been carrying inside. And therefore, of course, the situation would get out of hand. That person may attack me back, and all sorts of things could happen. So I use that as an example because we're all like this. We've all got stuff inside us. We've all got those triggers. They're like powerful, painful points. And we'll say to people, you just pushed one of my triggers. And it's all your fault that I've got angry because you knew that would make me angry, saying that or doing that. So these are very important things. We need to really get rid of all the stuff that we're carrying inside us, all that negative stuff. Now, we can't deny what's happened. I can't deny that I was bullied and made to feel bad. But what I have done, and you can do if you want, and this is an important point, because sometimes people don't want to get rid of all these feelings. If you want, you can get rid of the feelings, and then that will give you a sense of release and relief, and also you won't be affected by them in the future. So, for example, you can have a petrol can that's full of fumes. There may not be any petrol left in it, but there's the vapors left. If you would put a lighted match into the vapor in an empty petrol can, it could explode. Take away the vapors and there's no petrol in it, put as many lighted matches in as you like, and nothing will happen. So this is what we're going to be looking at, healing the heart. Now, in that process, we have the intellect. Now, the intellect is the decision-making part of ourselves, the part where we make judgments, where we discriminate, where we use our reasoning ability, and where we use our willpower. And when these things from the past come up, what we want to do, rather than repeat them and make things worse, we want to really empower the intellect so that it can intervene and say, no, we're not going to go down that route. We're not going to start shouting at people because they call us stupid. We're going to sort it out. We're going to release those feelings. We're going to change the outcome and create a new way of dealing with things. So we create new peaceful habits to replace the old negative fears and tensions and trauma which we're carrying inside us. Does that make sense? Yeah, good. So yes, Brian there, it makes sense to you. I saw you nodding, so that's good. I can see 2 or 3 people down the side. Helps to see a human reaction.
John, there's a question out here. Could you please repeat the can and the vapors example?
Okay, yes. So you've got a can that's had petrol in it. Okay, there's no petrol in it now, but the vapors remain inside. And if you put a lighted match into that, it would explode because the fumes are inflammable. If you remove the fumes, then you can put as many lighted matches in as you like. It won't make any difference. The match will just burn out without the can exploding. So it's like that with us. If I can get, say, in terms of me and the example of the beanpole, having released all my beanpole feelings, people can call me a beanpole now and I won't get angry. I might say, oh, that reminds me of how I used to get bullied at school, and I don't actually like being called a beanpole, so would you mind not calling me one in future, please? But that's very different from being so uncontrollably angry that I go and hit somebody. Now, most of the people in prison, I would say, are in there because of their own inner pain. Hurt people hurt. People who've been bullied as children grow up to be bullies. People who've been abused as children grow up to abuse because they do not know any other way of being. They may be told you mustn't do this, but their experience of life has been, this is what happens in life. This is what people do in life. And they're repeating, just like yesterday when you were exploring your passive and your aggressive behavior, a lot of you discovered you were copying patterns from the past that you picked up from your parents or maybe other relatives or teachers or whoever. So hopefully that answers the question. Are there any other questions on that then before I start talking about how we let go?
Someone wanted to know how long it took you to release those feelings.
Well, the interesting thing is once you have some knowledge and awareness, it doesn't take long at all. And we're going to do a couple of letting go exercises in a few minutes, which will help you to release a lot of yours. Now, I have to say at this point, I'm not a psychiatrist, and some people may need therapy or psychiatric intervention to help them to deal with the past. So I'm not saying this is the answer to everything by itself, but there is a lot we can do for ourselves if we're open to releasing things, because you have to remember we're looking at things from a slightly different perspective, from a spiritual perspective, based on the understanding that, you know, all this anger and resentment and bitterness is not part of our original nature, so we can let it go. Okay. So letting go involves releasing the feelings connected with painful experiences from the past. We can't change the past, but we can learn from it, heal the pain, restore our peace of mind, and move on. So letting go requires courage, determination, persistence, and patience, based on a strong desire to live a more peaceful, happy, healthy, and harmonious life. So I'll just give you a second or two just to read that through yourselves again. Okay, so it's not a soft option, this. And some people might say, why should I let go of all the anger about the way my mother or my father or whoever it was treated me? Why should I? And this reminds me of someone who came along to one of the live workshops which I've done, and she was an older German lady, and she was living in the UK, and she was saying, why should I stop hating the Nazis for what they did to my grandmother and my family? I'm the only one who escaped over and came here to England. How can you expect me to forgive and forget or let go of all of that? And on one level, that's a reasonable, point of view to make. But with reflection, she realized, most of the Nazis were already dead, along with her family, because she was in her 70s at the time, or 80s, I can't remember now. And then B, who was suffering more than anyone else? Herself, not sleeping at night, feeling always stressed, feeling always anxious, feeling always unhappy. And then she realized, well, actually, what is the point of holding on to all of this? It's not helping anybody. It's not helping me. And really, it was having a profoundly negative effect on her life. So this is what we're going to be working on. But I'm conscious, if we start working on it now and start doing these different exercises and that, we won't be able to have a break. So maybe we'll just stop for 10 minutes. Will that be okay before we do the exercises? So you've got time to think about things if you want to. And you've got time to go to the loo, have a drink or whatever else. And then when we come back, we're going to go into various ways in which you can learn to let go of things. So is that okay? Let me nod there from, yeah, Brian there, right? That does help, yes. Okay then, so I'll have to use you as my monitor, Brian, because you're the only one I can see down the side. Okay, so 10-minute break now then. So we'll be back at 25 past. That's 25 past 11, and that gives us an hour to do all the letting go exercises. So see you in 10 minutes time. Thank you. All right then, so we're going to start the letting go process. And let me emphasize again, please don't feel you've got to do this, you've got to let go of everything. I'm not suggesting that at all. It's up to you what you want to let go of. It's up to you what you feel comfortable letting go of. And it's not obligatory, compulsory, or anything like that. Don't do anything that's going to make you feel worse, because that's not the intention of this. Things might get triggered from the past which you don't want to, look at, which is fine. So please just do what you feel comfortable doing. I'm going to outline it, if you like, the ideas behind it, and then it's really up to you to work on what you feel you want to work on, or what you feel you can work on. So yes, we've done how the mind works and that, and we've looked at what letting go is involved. So these are ways to let go. So we'll go through the list, and then we'll work on one or two of them and do an exercise on them. And then after that, we'll go into breakout groups so you can, talk about it more. So the first thing is to acknowledge and accept how you feel. So really, there's the 3 A's really. You need to be aware of what you're feeling in the first place. Now, a lot of people don't want to go there because it's too painful. So if you're not aware of it, and if you don't acknowledge it and you don't accept it, then you're not going to get very far. It's entirely up to you whether you do it or not. But if we give ourselves, time to reflect on these things and allow them to come up, but remembering that we're doing it in a detached way. We're doing it as the observer, as the soul, if you like, observing what's gone on in this life. Because that detachment combined with a willingness to want to let go are the two ingredients which will make the difference. So in what we're going to do now, we're not wanting to go around that cycle and reinforce it all. Oh dear, I had an awful time and I'll never recover. And how could they do that? We could go around that forever. And some people have therapy for many years where they spend hours at a time with therapists talking about what happened. Well, the more we talk about it in that sort of way, the more we're reinforcing it. So we don't want to be reinforcing it anymore. We want to be releasing it, letting it go from the soul. So this is why this is slightly different from all the other sorts of ways of dealing with it. So being aware of it, so letting it, being like sitting back, if you like, detached, doing the slow, deep, gentle breathing, because that takes us in, brings us into the moment. So we're being mindful, and then we're allowing ourselves to become aware of feelings which we've maybe suppressed or repressed. It might be in relation to a person, it might be in relation to a situation. You know, you don't know what's going to come up. And I think only the things that you can manage will come up, because I think it's a bit like the layers of an onion. You know, you need to, or in my experience, you need to let go many times on many occasions because another layer has been revealed, if you like. So maybe it will start off with somebody, you know, say like calling me a beanpole. Somebody calls you something, all this pain is revealed. This is when you would use these exercises, right? I want to work on this. So sticking with my beanpole experience, being aware of the pain that's caused me, acknowledging that pain, and you're really getting upset, feeling upset. If I was really upset when that happened, and I felt awful at the time. So you're looking back now with wisdom, you're looking back as an adult over it and thinking it was awful, I really hated it. And then not denying the feelings, but accepting them. It's okay to feel angry about that. It's okay to feel bad. Anyone would in that situation. People laughing at you, you know, with your knees bleeding and your elbows scarred from loads of different forms of bullying. But yeah, all right, I accept all that, and I want to release it. I want to let go of it. So this is, you know, this lays the seed, if you like, or the foundation for it. Now, so what do we do when we've got that? We can just actually, and I did this in meditation, you can sit there and I can remember I was in India in our headquarters there, and I went into one of the meditation rooms and I sat down and said to myself, Om Shanti, you know, I'm going to focus on being peaceful. And this is where your intuition and your conscience and that, you know, come along. And a voice said, no, you're not. You're really angry. And I tried to deny it to begin with because in the past I've always been on the passive side. I've always been a good little boy who's, and as an adult, who's always smiled and pretended everything's all right. And all this stuff started coming. So, all right then, all right, let's look at this anger. So meditation and, you know, the Brahma Kumari's form of meditation is based on the understanding I'm a soul and none of this stuff really belongs to me. It's happened to me. and we have an understanding that that God, the divine one or the source, I mean, whatever you want to call that energy, is there to support us and help us, and will remove our sorrow, if you like, if we offer it up, if we give it. And it doesn't happen by magic. You actually have to face it and acknowledge it, and then, if you like, give it up. So I sat there in meditation, and I thought, what? When was the first time I was really angry? And then my mind, or my memory, or the subconscious, it's brought up this memory of my grandmother when I was in a pram. I must have been about 18 months old, something like that. I don't know, younger maybe. I was in a pram, and she lived in a basement of a tenement block, and there was a yard at the back, and because it was in the basement, there was a high wall all around, and then at a high level there was like a garden square which you couldn't see from the basement. And I can remember she was really angry with me for whatever reason. I was in the pram, and I was crying my eyes out, and she just shoved me out in this um, basement area, slammed the kitchen door, or the door, and I just screamed and screamed and screamed. And I can still remember that now. And so, in this detached state, I said to myself, or you could say I said to God, I let go of the anger when my grandmother left me out in the yard when I was scared. Right, and then all the other memories started coming up then, one after the other. It was quite interesting. Um, yeah, so I let go of the anger when somebody tripped me up on the bus deliberately and I broke my nose. And I went through everything. Lots of things happened at school. You could say now, you would use the word torture for what happened some of the times. I think I mentioned one of the incidents yesterday. I let go of the anger when these boys did this, when they did that, and when they dangled me over a bridge, and I was afraid of falling in the water. So many different things. And then, having let go of everything I could think of, I then went back and forgave everybody. Now, forgiveness is a big thing. How on earth do you forgive people who do these things to you? But I'll explain that in a moment. Anyway, so I went back and forgave everybody, and that led to a tremendous release of all these feelings, all the ones that at least I'd remembered. And I left that meditation room feeling as high as a kite, as if I dropped a load of baggage, because I'd released so much. Now, to be honest, that was only the start, because I've had to do it many times since. But it gave me a good experience and helped me to realize we can release the feelings. We can't deny the things have happened, but we can release the feelings connected with them if we want to. This is the very important. If we want to. Some people don't want to. Some people life is based on being a victim. The story they tell themselves and other people is all about what a bad life they've had, what a hard life they've had, because then they get people's sympathy. Oh, you poor thing, you have had a rough life, but it doesn't empower you. It doesn't help you to move on. It leaves you stuck in the past. So you can do it, but for me, I didn't want that, but it's everyone's choice. So that can help a lot. Then looking at the past with understanding, looking at the past as an adult, you can see things in a slightly different way, maybe. So now when I look back on the bullying that went on at school, I've got a very different perception of it. because I was quite bright. There's an expression in English called SWAT. Somebody's always studying. And I was in a boys' school where a lot of the boys hated studying because they were no good at it. And anybody like me who was good and always top of the class made them feel bad. I mean, I didn't deliberately do that, but that was the way they interpreted it because the teachers would praise me, oh, he's so clever, etc., etc. And by implication, they were so stupid. So for, on one level, you could see why they didn't like me. That was one thing. The second thing was we were living, this is in the 50s, after a war, and the discipline was very strict still. People carried it over from the war, if you like. We all had to stand in rows and all this sort of thing, stand to attention. And the teachers ruled through fear. We were taught by nuns who carried straps with them, leather straps, and they'd whack you one if you did anything they didn't agree with. So the children, actually, if you look at it, they were being shown a model of how you ought to behave. You need to be strong to survive. You need to hit people in order to survive. Um, so there's that understanding. Well, actually, they were part of a culture you wouldn't dream of saying you'd been hit or hurt because you'd probably get another whack from the teacher, on top of what you'd already got from the kids. So when you look back, you can see what was going on. Those children as well probably came from homes where they were hit and hurt a lot. They didn't know any better. So when you put all that together, you can understand why people used to have a go at me. And I can understand that now as an adult. Does this make sense? Yeah, so good. So yeah, someone there I can see is nodding, yeah. Okay, so with understanding then comes compassion. With understanding comes forgiveness, because you can see the bigger picture. Does that make sense? So yeah, I can see, obviously I was the subject of it, or the object, depending on how you look at it. It wasn't a nice experience to go through, but now I understand it a bit better. And, all those other people were victims as well of the system in which they were. They were all being influenced by other things. And somehow or other, that takes some of the pain away. It's easier to release when you see that. So again, I could give you another example. My mother, hated being a mother. She complained constantly about the housework. Every meal, if you didn't say thank you, that was lovely, she would burst into tears because the whole thing she found really difficult. She did her duty, she did do the washing, she did do the cooking, she did care for us, but she hated every minute of it. And it wasn't very nice living in an environment like that. And so I did have some bad feelings towards her. But then again, later on in life, when I understood her background and where she came from Ireland, Southern Ireland, which was in a state of poverty, living on a peasant farm where the father died at an early age, leaving a pregnant wife with 3 other children, no help around, on a little scrap of land, where the mother had to rule with a rod of iron and turn the children into slaves in terms of working on the farm in order to make enough money to survive. No shoes, walking to school, taking a bottle of milk from the cow, for lunch. I mean, she went through hell. And she left Ireland as quickly as she could at the age of 16, came to England and trained as a nurse, and she had a few years of freedom before she, married my father and ended up in a little terraced house in London, not knowing anybody and being stuck in a house all the time with children. And what was that? That was just bringing back all those feelings of being trapped and a slave that she'd put up with as a child. So again, when you see that, she actually did very well. In the circumstances. And you can understand and accept and forgive much more when you see that bigger picture. Does that make sense? So anyone who is causing you lots of trouble, take that step back, look at the bigger picture. Another way of looking at the bigger picture is to see things from the other person's point of view as well as your point of view. Why do they think like that? Why are they saying this? What impact am I having on them? What's going on between us? So rather than just going into blame and anger, look at it all in a different sort of way. So that can help a lot. And then express or release your feelings in a positive way. So again, this is a good exercise to do. We'll be doing an exercise or two ourselves in a minute, but you could write a letter to the person that you feel really angry about. Not one to post, but say, whether they're living or dead, it doesn't matter. If you like, you get in touch with your inner child and you express all the feelings that you felt at the time, but you weren't able to say, either out of fear or because you didn't know what to say. So you say, I feel really angry about the way you treated me. And then write it all down. I hated you when you did this. I wished you'd been able to give me a cuddle or a kiss. I wish you'd said I love you. All the things which they never said, which you needed. If you remember those basic needs, primary needs that we were talked about a minute ago. So write it all down to release it, so you're not carrying it inside you anymore. So that's a very useful exercise to do. You can also do it verbally. You can get 2 chairs. You can sit in one and put the other chair in front of you and imagine, say that's your parent or whoever. Say what you want to say. I did this with imagining my mother was there. And then you go into their seat and you reply as they would if she was there and you were sitting in the other chair. So, I did that, and I remember I said some of the things I've just mentioned, and when I sat in her chair, I knew exactly what she would say because I lived with her for so many years. How dare you? Who do you think you are talking to me like that after all I've done for you? And then you go back to your own chair and then you reply to that and say, I know you did your best, but on the other hand, you go backwards and forwards. And usually within 5 times of swapping roles, if you like, you both end up saying, I love you. Very interesting, because every parent wants to love their child and every child wants to love their parents, even though it hasn't worked out like that because of all the influences or all the different circumstances. So those are 2 direct ways. So like seeing the bigger picture, we've talked about that. Now another thing is to appreciate the lessons learned and the benefits gained from going through what you've been through. So I can think of an example of somebody on one of the courses when they used to be live, and she came from a home where the father used to hit her mother and herself. and they put up with it for years until finally the mother couldn't take it any longer and she left, and they went and lived in a refuge. Obviously, that was very traumatic at the time. And in the daughter's case, when she grew up, she decided, after what she'd been through, to devote her life to helping abused women. And this was in Mauritius, and she opened a refuge for women, so there was a place they could escape to. So she'd reached the stage where she was glad she'd been through what she'd been through, because it helped her to make her the person that she was. And she turned the whole thing round and turned it into a strength instead of a weakness. So another little example, I think it's a true story. There were two brothers, twins, I think, brought up in a family where the father was an alcoholic. And then, later on in life, they were seen, and one of the boys was an alcoholic, and someone said, "Why are you an alcoholic?" Because my father. What do you expect? He was an alcoholic, so I'm an alcoholic. And then they spoke to the other brother and said, "Are you an alcoholic?" He said, "No, I don't drink at all," because he'd learnt from the situation that to drink, is dangerous, drink alcohol. So you can both be in the same situation, but you can both take different things from it. So again, it's important really to look at it in a new way. And all the things that I've been through, and I've had a very traumatic life on so many levels, but actually they've all been blessings in disguise. Like getting divorced and at the age of 38 or whatever, being alone for the first time in my life in a little house by myself, having to learn to shop just for one rather than four, all those things. You go through it and it's hell at the time. But then if you deal with it in the right sort of way, you can see that it's maybe a stronger person, a more independent person. It's given me an opportunity to develop skills I wouldn't have had. I ended up becoming a single parent later on because the children came to live with me when they were teenagers. So lots of good things came of it. But it's not something you would want to go through, but you can learn from it and get things from it which can really help.
John,
Yeah.
just a quick question somebody has, how to see the big picture from the other person's perspective?
Yeah, well, the bigger picture is looking at that person, looking at their background, where they come from, what's going on for them in their lives. Like, for example, you might have a boss who's bullying you at work, and you just see that boss bullying you. Right. Obviously, we want to be assertive in that situation. We want to put down boundaries, etc. But if you take a step back and maybe look at the bigger picture, maybe that boss, for all we know, is going through a terrible divorce. Maybe that boss has got a serious illness which is debilitating. They're not necessarily telling you about it. But, if you think, well, hang on, why? Because with that understanding that we're all basically originally peace loving, any deviation from that is a sign of being in pain. Anger is a sign of pain. You're in pain, you're unhappy. So when we understand that, it, automatically it sort of widens the picture, doesn't it? Like somebody yesterday was talking about their mother being very negative and critical. Well, she was obviously a very unhappy woman. Why was she so unhappy? If you stop and think and take a step back, you'll see all sorts of things. You'll discover things You can actually say, Mum, what was your childhood like? How did you get on with your mum and your dad? How did they treat you? And you'll discover maybe a whole world. What went on for you at school? You know, like I think my mother was probably very ambitious. She'd had a taste of freedom. She was intelligent. She could have herself, but because of the circumstances in the 50s, women didn't really, you know, go out to work so much. They were expected to stay at home and be mothers. So, you know, there was a lot of frustration there, a lot of anger. Well, you know, that's part of the bigger picture, isn't it? So when you understand these things, it helps you to see them in a new light. I mean, again, you can apply all this to, you know, say America and things like that. I mean, um, you know, why are there so many angry people in the States or in the UK? There's many people who feel they've been unlistened to. They haven't been listened to. No one's listened to them. They're stuck in, you know, little rural areas maybe where there's hardly any work, where there's lots of poverty, etc., etc. And if you feel uncared for and unsupported, and I mean, in the UK, we're very lucky. We do have a national health service. We do have sickness benefit provided by the state. You know, in America, you know, it's all private and all the pressure is on you. And if you can't fulfill the American dream, you're going to get very angry because you're going to feel a failure. Well, when you see that bigger picture and you realize you're in a society which is based on competition and based on profit and based on greed rather than caring about people, you can that helps you to understand why people are the way they are, and then it gives you an opportunity to come up with solutions to make things better. Okay.
Mm.
So anyway, all this then gives us opportunities to be compassionate. First of all, yeah, and merciful and forgiving and loving. And that applies first of all to yourself. So all those things that we mentioned at the beginning there of this section about being valued and heard and respected, we need to respect ourselves. We need to love ourselves, accept ourselves, listen to ourselves. All those things, we don't have to depend on other people to do those things for us, not as adults. As children, you're in a dependent position. You don't know any better. But as an adult, we can. So let me go back to all those things quickly. Where are we? You know, we can value ourselves now. We can create a safe environment for ourselves. We can, you know, be more assertive. We can put down boundaries. We can say no. We couldn't do that as children. We can care for ourselves, listen to ourselves, accept ourselves, appreciate ourselves, acknowledge we're doing very well in the circumstances, whatever our life might be. We can respect ourselves. I'm an amazing person, really. I've done so well in my life when I look back over all the things that have happened, you know. So, and remember, you know, I'm a soul, actually. I'm a unique individual. I can encourage myself. Yeah, all right, I do get angry sometimes, but a lot of the time I remain peaceful. I am useful. You know, I can give to society. I'm a good parent. I'm a good neighbor, whatever it may be. And if I'm honest with myself, if listen to myself, I'm honest and say what I really need and want rather than suppressing my own needs, that's going to help me and help other people. So, you know, like someone who's frustrated at home because they can't express all their other qualities or skills, they need to be honest. Honest with themselves, honest with, say, the husband. I need time and space for myself. I need to express my creativity. I need to have a job in my own right. I want to be independent, or whatever it may be. And then treat yourself fairly, not beat yourself up. Give yourself time and space. Trust your own intuition. Love yourself. Hold yourself. You can give yourself a hug. And everyone give yourself a hug now. Just a little hug. Go on. There's a lot we can do for ourselves to nurture ourselves, develop ourselves, strengthen ourselves. And then that will help us to be more calm, be more peaceful, and deal with some of these other challenging issues. Right, and then I say, remember, angry people are always unhappy people. So we're going to do 2 exercises now to sort of make a reality of this. So for this, you need a clean piece of paper with your pen. And I want you to do some slow, deep, gentle breathing. So sit up and relax. And maybe for this suja, you could put some quiet music on in the background. Would that be okay, please?
Sure, I could do that.
Right, thanks. So I'll speak over the music. We can do both, can't we? Can I speak and you play the music, or doesn't it work like that?
Yeah, just tell me if it's too loud.
All right then, okay. So if you'd like to just say, sit upright first of all, legs uncrossed, feet on the ground, do the slow, deep, gentle breathing.
John,
Yes.
if I share it, the screen is going to come off. Is that okay? The what you're sharing is going to come off.
What, you mean I won't be able to talk?
No. You could talk. They won't be able to see the presentation.
Okay, well, yes,
Okay.
we're not doing a presentation now, so it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be fine. So we're sitting back, and if you can take a step back, if you like, from your life. Remember you're a peaceful being. You're a spiritual being. You've been through lots of things in your life. You've had lots of happy times. But you've also had some sad times. And you've had times when you've been feeling really angry about the way you've been treated, by some of the things that may have happened, like a parent might have died early. That would be a bit of a trauma, obviously. So you might have had a disability by other people. It could be events all to do with the way you've been treated, anger of being in poverty, or who knows. But what I'd like you to do now is have an intention to release the feelings connected with all these things from the past which you're carrying inside you. And what I'd like you to do is just write down everything you want to release or let go of. So you might want to write down, Dad, the way he used to shout at me, Mum, because she ignored me, whatever it may be. My friend at school who let me down when I really needed help. Whatever comes into your mind, whatever you want to release. So I'm letting go of the anger about X, Y, or Z. I'm releasing the feelings connected with ... So just spend the next 3 or 4 minutes reflecting on things and writing them down. Not the whole incident, we don't want to relive it all, We don't want to hold on to it and make it worse. We just want to release the feelings connected with it using the understanding we now have. So take your time. You've got about 5 minutes to do this. So become aware, acknowledge, and accept the anger, and then let go of it by writing it down. So it's like letting go of baggage. We're letting go of the baggage of the past. Anything that's holding us down. Anything that's preventing us from feeling peaceful. The jealousy, the resentment, the hate. As a detached observer, I'm letting go of all of these things so I can become free and happy. Okay, 30 seconds left just to finish if there's anything more you want to write down. And now what I'd like you to do is fold your piece of paper in half and then tear it up, but tear it up lovingly. Don't just rip it and go like that because it shows you're still full of anger. We're wanting to do this with love now. We're wanting to get rid of it with love. We don't need it anymore in our life, so we tear it up into pieces, and then if you can, put it in a bin. So it's gone. It's now rubbish. And then, having done that, I'm hoping that you will feel a sense of relief. And just close your eyes for a minute, having torn it up and put it in the bin. And just connect with your peace. And notice how much lighter you feel. Because you've started to release the rubbish inside. And see yourself now like a bird coming out of a cage of limitations, a cage which was like a prison, which was holding you back from being in the now, holding you back from being happy and peaceful. And then just imagine yourself as a bird flying away, free and happy. And then just say to yourself, I am a peaceful being. I am peace. I am. Okay, so someone has just written, this is a tearful session for me. Yes, it will be for some, definitely. It takes courage to face these things, but actually it's very healing as well. So the tears actually will be tears of healing. And I think that would be quite nice now. Can we burn the pieces of paper? You certainly can, yes, anything you can do, but not at this moment in time, because it'll be lunch in 15 minutes. You can burn it then, you can bin it, but you certainly don't want to keep it on your person because that's a lot of negative energy. So just put it somewhere in a corner out of the way. Don't hold on to it for the next few minutes because we're releasing negative energy and freeing ourselves up to receive positive energy, uplifting energy. Okay. There's some, so it's a simple but profound act. It really is actually. It always works. It's amazing what happens. So what I would like you to do now is to go into breakout rooms for 10 minutes, just to share what you want to share about that experience, whether it was helpful or whether, you know, you've got anything out of it at all. You don't feel bad if you haven't got anything out of it. It doesn't work for everybody, but just the whole thing that we've been talking about, anything you've discovered or anything that's come up for you through spending this time, you know, healing the heart. So Suja, everybody into breakout rooms, please.
Opening it now.
Great, thank you. So we're almost at the end of this morning session. It's supposed to be from 10 till 2, 12:30 and 2 till 4. That's Christina was asking. Okay, so it was started at 10 this morning, finishing now in a minute, and then 2 till 4 this afternoon. Okay, so I can see people enjoyed that, if that's the right word, actually. I think it's a release and a relief. And it's the start of the process. It's not the end of it. These are tools and insights which, you know, you will need to use many times. Because, for example, I think when I was talking about my mother, you know, so I got a bit emotional and I realized there was still something there which I need to sort out. So, I mean, I've been doing these release exercises, you know, for a long time, and it's okay. You know, you're not going to clear it all at once. I view it a bit like an archaeological dig. You know, when you, as an archaeologist, you don't discover the treasure straight away. You have to clear all the different layers out of the way before you get down to the gold or the jewels or whatever is left at the bottom of all the rubbish that's accumulated over the top. So I think you need a pat on the back, or you should give yourself a pat on the back, as it's all virtual at the moment, for having the courage to do what you've done. So well done to everybody. And we're going to have 1 minute of silence just to sort of, you know, reconnect with the soul, feel that healing. And then we're going to finish, for those who want to, with a bit of dancing, because it's not all sorrow. It's all about freeing ourselves from sorrow and becoming happy again. So you can either go straight off to lunch, or you can dance to the music, which will be on in a minute. Okay, so we'll just have this minute of silence. So just focus on your inner being. Remember who you really are. I'm a soul, an eternal spiritual being. I'm a being of peace and love. And I appreciate myself for having the courage to let go of some of the baggage that I've been holding on to for so long. Some of the pain and the hurt from the past. I've let it go. I've given it to the divine, so it no longer haunts me. I feel freer. I feel happier. I feel more at peace with myself and the world. Om Shanti. Okay, so now Sudra is going to put on one of my favorite songs. When I do a live retreat with everybody present, which I've done quite a few of, especially actually with the cancer retreats. That would be a good retreat to have people with cancer and their carers, because I've done various retreats, but yeah, we often play this song. So we're going to go out with this song, so you can either stay for it and dance to it, or you can go straight to lunch. But please be back at the 2 o'clock. Yes, your time. Yeah, 2 till 4. All right, for the last session, which will be about awakening the spirit and summarizing everything. So Suja, can we have the song now, please? So no sitting is allowed now. You have to stand up for this.
The snow glows white on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen.
Now you can change your laptop.
The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. It's funny how some distance makes everything seem small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Let it go, let it go. I am one with the wind and sky. Let it go, let it go. You'll never see me cry. Here I stand, here I hurt me anyway.
Okay, good. Thank you. See you at 2. Have a nice lunch. Bye.